Hello, everyone. The Parks, Recreation, Public Lands, and Buildings Committee is now open. We're gathered tonight to receive public input and discuss the installation of a dog park at Ridge Park. An agenda and draft lease were sent to committee members in advance of this meeting, and we will discuss the draft lease agreement and then receive comment from the public. City Attorney Hunter Brown shared a draft of this lease agreement with the committee, and I'll point out some important provisions of the agreement right now, and then we will have the opportunity to ask Hunter questions and then about how the lease will operate. As for maintenance, the leasee shall be solely responsible for infrastructure improvements to the premises for its intended use as a dog park, including but not limited to installation of utilities, water, sewer, electric, and gas, fences, water fountains, walkways, and trash receptacles, as well as the lease agreement is to retain to 3 years. The leasee shall be responsible for the continued maintenance and repair of the dog park infrastructure and the grounds therein including litter cleanup, lawn mowing, snow and ice removal, line trimming, and the removal of fecal matter from the dog park left by participating dogs. The leasee shall maintain the keep said premises in good repair as its sole cost and expenses with no additional expenses to the leaser. Absolutely. Okay. So in short, for the lease, it's to last 3 years. The infrastructure improvements of the premises is to be intended as a dog park. So that will include utilities such as water, sewer, electric, and gas, fences, water fountains, walkways, and trash receptacles, as well as the leasee shall be responsible for the continued maintenance and repair of the dog park infrastructure and the grounds, therein including litter, cleanup, lawn mowing, snow and ice removal, line trimming, and the removal of fecal matter from the dog park left by participating dogs, as well as the leasee shall maintain and keep said premises in good repair at its sole cost and expenses with no additional expenses to the leaser. Does anyone in the committee have any questions for Hunter about how the lease would operate?
Well, Hunter, I was just wondering if you could just give us a general overview of what we're looking at here.
Absolutely. First, you'll have to bear with me. I had a septoplasty. I got tubes in my nose, and I'm all messed up right now. So it might take me a minute. This is a general lease. There's some blanks on it, which are areas that have things that generally just need to be figured out or negotiated. I think for the most part, we have most of them worked out. Councilman Dennis sent me a list of questions that the dog park group had with regards to the lease. I've went through and answered those on my own. If you want me to address some of those, where'd you go? There you are. I have most of those answered. And most of those questions go towards blanks in the lease. So if you want me to speak to that now, I can.
Sure.
As an overview, I think the idea is that the dog park group is creating its own essentially nonprofit and running the dog park where the city is leasing the space. And the whole idea is that the dog park group runs the whole dog park themselves. And aside from physically owning the property, the city is relatively hands-off. Okay, sorry, breathing and talking at the same time is hard right now. Mr. Dennis had a question about paragraph 1, site access shall be permitted. That language speaking towards, would that prevent the dog park group from requiring that people sign something or scan a QR code? No, I don't think so whatsoever. Regarding paragraph 2, there was a question about who is responsible for the installation of utilities, water fountains, trash receptacles, all that stuff. The dog park group's going to have to be responsible for that stuff. Simply put, the city doesn't do that stuff. That's end user stuff that the dog park would have to pay for. But on the other hand, I did speak to Brian O'Connell with regards to things like the utilities cost for the water. That is something that I think the city would be able to absorb. So that answers a question a little bit further down. There was a question Jeff had for me about Paragraph 5, speaking to ADA accessibility. I can't speak to that as I'm not your attorney. I doubt there'd be anything too tricky there to figure out because it's all on the same level, but it might have to do with how wide the gate is or something. Number 4, paragraph 7, they'd like an estimate or estimates on with regards to the escrow. Speaking to the escrow, I think the main point of the escrow wasn't that anyone was gonna ask for any ridiculously high amount or anything. I think the idea, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, was that the escrow amount would cover some brief period of lawn mowing and feces cleanup in case things went south, that cost could come out of there. I think that was the whole idea behind the escrow amount, but I could be wrong. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't think the escrow, I mean, we have to figure out what that amount is, but I don't think that's a ridiculously high amount. Under paragraph, Jeff's next question, under paragraph 8, he said he wanted to know who handled lawn mowing as well as snow and ice removal at Ridge Park currently and what is the cost. Currently, we do because it's a park that we maintain. But I think the idea was for the dog park group to maintain all that kind of thing themselves. That way, the city isn't stuck negotiating between, say, poop cleanup and lawn mowing and that kind of thing. So I think that's part of the idea was they would contract with their own lawnmower and cleaner upper and all that.
So this is, what we're talking about here is like within the parameters of the dog park. When it comes to the rest of the park, we would still do that.
Yes.
The playground area,
Oh, yes.
the parking spaces.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. The lease is specifically with regards to the footprint of the dog park. There was a question Mr. Dennis had under number, it's his number 7 with regards to paragraph 15 about restricting the general public from access. If the visitors are required to provide basic contact information, and no, I don't think that would be considered restricting public from access. Jeff took exception to one of the items listed under paragraph 16, specifically C. That's fine. We can get rid of that. I don't see any need for that. Sorry? Paragraph 16,
Okay, thank you.
C. Under paragraphs 20, 21, 22, they would like the notice period extended to 90 days. I haven't spoken about that with anyone. That's probably fine. I don't know why that wouldn't be. And question 10 that Jeff had was about requirements for hosting special events at the park. For example, events including food trucks and adult beverages. Those events wouldn't be anything different than any events that you have at any of the other parks in town. You need the necessary permits or anything like, I mean, there'd be nothing in this lease that would include or exclude that. This is just about the dog park stuff, so.
Great. Is there any questions from the committee to Hunter about the lease agreement? Hunter, I have a question.
Sure.
Do the hours of operation change because of our noise ordinances, or do they remain the same with Ridge Park as a whole?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
So you know how we have noise ordinances and when it comes to certain things after a certain time?
Sure.
Would this pertain to the dogs because of the dogs making noise, or would it just adhere to the Ridge Park's current?
I suppose we'd just go by sun up to sundown, kind of like we do with the parks currently.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I would like a little more detail on the escrow. I heard you say not too big,
Yeah.
but if you could give me like a rough range of what that would be.
I think a few $1,000s probably would be what we recommend. Again, we'd be looking at, the cost to cover a period of time should the terms of the agreement change.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions from committee?
No, I'm fine.
All right, great. Then we will now hear public comment on this issue. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the committee at this time? Please come up, state your name and address for the record. Please proceed and then stick around for questions from members of council. No. Anyone is welcome to come up and speak.
Good evening. My name is, excuse me, Jenny Swope. I live at 316 Garden Court. I'm a Bowling Green resident, property owner, taxpayer, and dog owner. I was not privy to the draft lease that you are speaking about, but a couple of my concerns about it is to whose standards is the maintenance of that dog park? Who is making those standards? Who's monitoring that? And how often is that monitored? And what are the consequences of not meeting those standards? It may be defined in that lease, and I just don't know.
Yeah, could you speak to that?
I can. Well, I'd respond a few ways. Number one, I don't know that there's anything specifically in the lease that says, I think there is. It says you have to keep the lawn mowed. It definitely says you have to keep the poop cleaned up, that kind of stuff. So in the unlikely event that that wasn't happening, it'd be a breach of the lease and we'd have to evict the dog park. But specifically, there's also our exterior maintenance ordinances in town that would apply to this space as well. And there's what was the other thing? I'm sorry, it's a difficult night for me. Any details on that you want to add? Help me out.
I guess I was more specifically, is it like Public Works? Is it the Parks Department? Who's monitoring that?
With regards to the space inside the park, it would be the dog park group that's signing the lease themselves. Outside the dog park, but still at Ridge Park, would be the city.
My name's Dale Arnold. I live at 201 Ridge Street on the corner of Ridge and Prospect. And I came here just mainly to fact find. Is half the park going to be contributed to that, or is it going to be fenced off, or how's that going to go?
The final design and layout of the dog park, I think, is still a work in progress, but it's been my impression that the kind of the working concept was that the dog park itself would be located on the northern portion of the park, which is a grassy area, and the area will be fenced in. There has been discussion about constructing a new fence that would be appropriate for that use on the property. So again, that's a work in progress, but that's, I think, the general parameter would be on the north end, and then the playground area on the south and the other areas in between would remain as they are.
So there would be gates to get in the
Again, some of those operating parameters will be determined by the dog park group, but there have been discussions about creating some sort of electronic access to the park area, to the dog park area. I'm sorry.
Well, I get a lot of traffic at my corner the way it is now, and I'd have to say that, 90% of the dog owners are courteous and stuff. I'm a general stopping spot, and I love animals. I love dogs. I'd have dogs, but I don't want to walk them. I'm lazy, so I have 5 cats. But what about the parking at Ridge Park?
There is existing parking there. I think on the west side of the lot along the alleyway there. That would remain as is and would be available for anyone using the park, whether it's the playground area or the dog park. I would expect that a good portion of those persons using the dog park would arrive on foot.
Okay. Well, what I see now is that area has always been kind of a problem with parking. People are parking there now. I don't know if they're supposed to or not, but if they're not there, they're on the street. And the street's been fine lately, but I just got concerns about extra parking. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that's the number one problem in this town is parking. But
Well, there will be a number of impacts on the park, when the dog park is implemented that are unknown at this time. And like everything, we'll monitor that and adjust accordingly to make sure that we're implementing best practices to make sure that the park is appropriate in the neighborhood.
okay, thank you.
If I could also make a note at this point, with regards to the question that the lady over there had earlier too, the whole thing with regards to the lease is that, if it goes south, we don't have to renew the lease. So it's kind of a experiment in that way, a good one, hopefully.
Do we have any more general comments?
Hello, my name is Enrique Gómez del Campo, 229 Berkeley Drive. I'm a resident of Bowling Green, obviously. I a bit surprised hearing about this lease being almost done and not having heard anything about it before. That's my concern. The other thing is, I don't think that the city leasing this to this 503 for the dog park is a good idea. There's a couple of things. The number of dog owners in Bowling Green is about 38%, which is in line with the state and the nation. And of those, I would think at most would be 50% of those of the 38. Let's round it to 40%. Would be the ones that take the dogs there, because a large percentage of the vets says that it's not a good idea to take your dogs to the dog parks because of getting disease from other dogs and stuff. You can read it. There's plenty of articles about it. The other that is that people that have small dogs, they wouldn't take them there. They're concerned about big dogs hurting their little dogs. So if we run the numbers, we said 20% of the residents of Bowling Green will benefit for a park that currently now serves everyone, right? So that's one. We're serving only 20% for this, whereas we're going to take out of the park system this amount. And the park is barely 2 acres. So what probably is going to be left is barely the playground, right? If we keep in line with the typical dog park, that would make sense. The other issue is Ridge Park is the only park in Ward 1, right? And it's the ward with the lowest income. So I see this an environmental justice issue too, right? Because we have an area that serves underprivileged or people that have less resources, and we're going to take 3/4 or a substantial amount of the park out of theirs, right? And so, I would have that most of the users of this park would probably not come from Ward 1. So they're probably not going to be walking here. They may be driving their cars and getting here. So we're taking an area from the Ward 1, a recreational area from Ward 1, and benefit other wards, right? So that's a concern too. The other thing is, part of that dog park was funded by donations from community members, right? And we donated money, not for a dog park, but a park for Ward 1. And what's going to happen with that? Are the city going to refund those donations since the whole change, the whole situation of the park changed? What's that? Now, there is an existing dog park in I-75, so anything that you say that will bring business, well, if you're right off 75, all the people passing by through would get that, the benefit. They will get off right there instead of having to go through the town and get to this park. So it's going to benefit local residents, or it's going to be benefit somebody else, or is that a marketing thing for the university, sorry, I work for the university, for the city? If it is, then I-75, the place would be best. Now, I also want to put you something. Okay, let's say the council decides to lease this land for the dog park. So what if we decide then, that since there's a dog park, we don't want dogs in the other parks? There's already a park for dogs. Take your dog to the dog park. And so what happens if there's a petition to do not allow any dogs in any of the other parks, even with leashes? There's a dog park already. So what's the implication of that? I think I'm concerned two things, that, this lease has been working behind closed doors, that this is the first time there's an input on it, and it seems that it's already completed, that lease, the process. And two, that they don't intend the consequences on this, and they haven't been explored, they haven't been discussed. That's my issue with it. I want the best decision for that. Nothing to do with the dog parks. It has to be with the city council making the best decision for all the residents of the city, not for a few ones. Thank you.
Do we have any other comment?
My name is Rose Drain. I live at 228 East Court Street. Thank you for gathering us so that you can receive input from those with questions, as Dale had, and the lady, Jenny Swope, and for the gentleman who also raised concerns. Representatives of the Bowling Green Save Our Neighbor, no, that's my other group.
You gotta put the right hat on.
I know. Whoop. Citizens for BG Dog Parks has spoken a number of times in front of City Council recently, saying that we are hoping to move forward on a lease. So if the gentleman who said that this has been under wraps, it's not been. The two newspapers reported each time that the dog park representative spoke about the fact that we were hoping for the city to move forward on a lease with us. So that point that he made is actually not correct. As someone who travels with my dogs, with my husband, we look for places that have dog parks when we travel. We Google if we know we're going to a certain area of a state. We see what city around there has a dog park, and that's where we choose to stay, so that our dogs can have fun in between the long drives in the car. The dog park that is at the dog shelter is not open to the public. That's a membership dog park. So anybody traveling on I-75 who wants to stop in Bowling Green and find an off-the-leash dog park will not find one there. We've been working, our group has been working with the city for 2 years, and we've been assiduously raising funds, having fundraisers, getting our argument or our opinion in favor of the dog park out to folks. And the site of Ridge Park was selected after a feasibility study was done by a graduate class at Bowling Green State University that examined several locations within the city. It was found that Ridge Park was the most optimal to be a within walking distance dog park because of the density of the population on the east side of town. More people can comfortably walk to a dog park at Ridge Park than another park location in Bowling Green. Always our concern with the dog park that is operated by the county that is near the dog shelter was that no one can walk there. Everyone has to drive there. It's not within walking distance for one thing, and it's also not safe to walk there because there are no sidewalks out to that area. Anything else? Okay.
Smaller dogs.
Oh, right. With the concern regarding small dogs and large dogs, we are planning for the dog park to have 2 spaces so that small dogs who are mean and go after those big dogs can be kept away from them, and so that the large dogs can be comfortable and relaxed while they play, even though the small ones may be yipping at them through the fence. Thank you. I think that's all. Thank you.
Do we have any more public comment or concerns?
I just had one. I think you had a question about the gate, and most dog parks have a double gate system where you open one gate, there's sort of a middle area, and then you open another gate. So that's a way. It's a way to ensure that all the dogs that are within the park don't run out, and so it creates a lot of safety and an opportunity for dogs to enter a single one at a time.
Is that a card or a lock or something?
Initial one,
Yeah.
not the second one.
Yeah. Yep. But just so you know, it's not just a single open gate.
Okay. Do we have any more public comment, concern? All right, seeing none. Now, since there is no more public comment on this issue, I'll turn to the committee members to ask for final thoughts. Mark, Joel.
I have a question about the card access gate. I thought we were not going to restrict access.
Is your question for me?
It's for whoever can answer it, actually.
Well,
I mean, a card access means it's restricted.
Well, the idea spoke about in Jeff's email as well as in the lease wasn't that anyone from the public would be restricted, not for a fee. I'm talking legal access. Like legally, anyone in the public can access it for free. That's what I was concerned with. As far as accessing it, I think when they say things about using a card, they're meaning people who've signed up and signed a waiver, that kind of thing.
So you would need a card to get into the park.
Can I address that?
Yeah.
I would first of all note that arrangement, Joel, that you're talking about is not a requirement of the lease. I think that the way it's been referred to as an operational component that is being discussed by the organizers of the dog park in order to assure that those using the dog park are familiar with rules, regulations. Perhaps you can speak to that a little bit, Rose. Better.
Yes, so we have talked about the fact that there will be a QR code that someone can scan in order to acknowledge that they have read the rules, that their dog must be vaccinated, that they will pick up their dog's poop, etc. And then by doing that and signing the waiver, they will get the code for the gate.
Thanks.
Yeah. Of course, there has to be an option for people who don't know how to use QR codes. And so, we'll figure that out. There will be some way that people who can't do it can reach out to us.
Excellent. Thanks.
So there are ways I might be able to get into this dog park.
I had 2 concerns that I want to answer to. With what about dogs and existing parks? I don't see that changing anytime soon, as well as with this lease, it is only a 3-year lease. So if, like Hunter said earlier, if things go bad, we have the option not to re-enter. As well as from my time living in Ward 1, with Ridge Park, as it pertains to the northern half where this dog park would be located, during the summer when peak things are going on, I don't usually see that part of the park being utilized. So I think with this utilization, we'd actually have something to put there other than this really open space. I think that the southern half where that park is located, it is utilized more than that open space. So I think that this would be a great portion and filler for that. as well as a soon-to-be graduate of BGSU, living in Ward 1, I have seen a lot of people walking their dogs, especially ESAs within the ward, even on campus and in the apartments. I think that while you do raise an issue about how many people actually bring their dogs, I think as it pertains to the space of Ridge Park, a few dogs in each portion would take a lot of that space. So it would be used to the space that it is confined to. Is there any other comments from council pertaining to the dog park?
I would just say that this is a topic of conversation that has been ongoing for years now here in the city of Bowling Green, and I haven't heard any arguments pro or con the notion of a dog park that I have not heard multiple times before over this period of time. So I guess if, unless anyone has anything else to say, I would like to make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Well, let me make it first.
Hey.
You have no idea what I'm capable of. Okay. Let's see. I would like to make a motion to have a lease agreement drawn up between the city of Bowling Green and Citizens for Bowling Green Dog Parks. I would like that lease agreement to be presented before council as a whole for their consideration on this matter.
Second.
Great. So you have to lead me through this, Mark. This is my first committee meeting.
You can have Jody call the roll.
Can you call roll?
Sure. Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Sherry.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to have a lease agreement drawn up and have it brought before council, and we can have this conversation again at that point in time.
I agree.
So unless there's something exciting you'd like us to do.
As of right now, no.
I make a motion that this meeting is called to a close.
I second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much.